Hello, everyone, and I hope you're having a wonderful day. Today, we're going to explore a story that looks peaceful on the surface, but slowly reveals hidden tensions and unanswered questions. A quiet family, an unexpected visitor, and a sense of trust that may not be as simple as it seems. Through parts 1 and 2, we'll follow Huyen, her daughter Maya, and Thomas as small moments begin to hint at a much bigger storm ahead. Is this genuine closeness or the calm before everything changes? If you enjoy this story, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss what happens next. With just one seemingly simple sentence from Thomas, Huyen found it hard to feel at ease. Behind that gentle smile and the unexpected sense of closeness, was Thomas truly approaching her family with sincerity? Or was this simply another piece of a plan that had been carefully arranged from the very beginning? After enduring so many storms in life, Huyen had believed she had finally reached calm waters. She had a quiet home, a man who was willing to protect her, and a little daughter named Maya, whose laughter filled every corner of the house. Everything looked like the happiness she had once dreamed of. But was that peace already being silently invaded? As Thomas gradually stepped closer to her family, one question lingered in the air. What was his real purpose? All of that would slowly unfold in this episode, where just one harmless-sounding phrase could become the spark that ignites a much greater storm. Do you trust Thomas? Or do you find yourself leaning toward Huyen's intuition? Share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you won't miss the next dramatic turn in this story. That afternoon, the sky was a pale gray, not dark or threatening, but unsettled in a way that made the air feel heavy. Clouds drifted lazily overhead, as if quietly wrapping Huyen's small house in a thin layer of unease. Nothing dramatic happened, yet there was a faint, nagging feeling, the kind that creeps into your chest without warning, telling you something is coming, even when you can't explain why. Out in front of the house, Thomas was bent over the old wooden fence, carefully repairing it. The boards had weathered with time, their color faded and rough to the touch. He worked slowly, methodically, hammering each nail into place with steady hands. Sweat dotted his forehead, and for the moment, his mind was empty, focused only on the simple rhythm of work. Then suddenly, the sharp sound of a car braking in front of the gate shattered the quiet. It was abrupt, jarring, like a wrong note in a familiar melody. Thomas froze, instinctively lifting his head. A car stood just beyond the fence, one that felt strangely familiar. It took him a second to understand why his heart had started pounding. The car stopped completely. The door opened. In that instant, it felt as though the world around the house had paused. The wind stilled. The leaves stopped rustling. Even the air seemed to hold its breath. Thomas straightened slowly, his voice slipping out before his thoughts could catch up. Standing there was Thomas's brother, looking much the same as before. Tall and thin, shoulders slightly slouched, exhaustion etched faintly across his face. He smiled when he saw Dee, a polite, restrained smile that never quite reached his eyes. There was something hidden behind it, like fog, concealing what lay beneath. "I brought a few things for the family," he said gently, his voice soft and measured, "especially for little Maya." As he spoke, his gaze drifted across the garden and settled briefly on the front steps. That was when Huyen stepped outside. The moment she saw him, she stopped short. A cold sensation slid down her spine before she could understand why. It wasn't fear. It wasn't surprise. It was something familiar. An old, uneasy feeling, like recalling a dream that once woke you in the middle of the night. "Thomas, when did you get here?" she asked, keeping her tone calm. "Just arrived," he replied after a brief hesitation. Then almost casually, he asked, "And Maya? Where is she?" His eyes shifted toward the porch. Maya was there, sitting near the steps and playing with Vivi, the small puppy darting happily around her. The little girl laughed as Vivi's tail wagged nonstop. Hearing the unfamiliar voice, Maya looked up. Her eyes were clear and bright, filled with innocent curiosity rather than fear. She studied Thomas for a moment, as if searching her memory. Then she asked, in a small but confident voice, "Who are you?" The question hung in the air, heavy and unsettling in a way no one could quite explain. Thomas slowly crouched down to Maya's level. This time, his smile was softer, calmer, as though he had rehearsed it in advance. "I'm a friend of your mom and Uncle D," he said gently, lowering his voice. "I just came to visit for a little while." Maya tilted her head, still watching him closely. She didn't step back, but she didn't move closer either. In her eyes was that pure mix of curiosity and faint hesitation that only children have, an instinct they don't yet know how to name. Behind her, Dee and Huyen stood perfectly still. No one spoke. The wind slowly picked up again, rustling through the vegetable garden, its soft whisper sounding almost like a warning. That brief moment stretched on, unnoticed by anyone. Yet it marked the beginning of everything that would follow. Secrets, doubts, and a quiet curiosity that had just taken root. All sparked by a child's gaze and a smile that never quite reached a man's eyes. Maya eventually moved behind her mother, her small hands gripping the edge of Huyen's skirt. She watched Thomas cautiously from there. Thomas noticed but didn't step closer. Instead, he slowly sat down on the porch step, lowering himself deliberately, as if to show he meant no harm. He called Vivi over, gently stroking the puppy's fur, letting the familiar, comforting motions ease the tension. Then he reached into his jacket and pulled out a small wooden spinning top. He set it down, and it began to spin softly in the breeze, producing a faint, soothing hum. "I brought this for you," he said quietly. "If you don't like it, that's okay." Maya peeked out again, her eyes fixed on the spinning toy. The fear in her gaze softened, replaced by fascination and a shy smile she couldn't hide. Slowly, she stepped forward. One small step, then another. "Thank you, Uncle," she said softly. That simple smile eased Huyen's heart more than she expected. For the first time since Thomas arrived, the tight feeling in her chest loosened slightly. Dee stood nearby, leaning against the porch pillar, saying nothing. His expression remained calm, but his eyes never left Maya, alert and watchful. Inside the kitchen, the atmosphere shifted completely. Huyen and Thomas sat across from each other, peeling vegetables side by side. The sounds of running water, crisp leaves, and casual conversation blended naturally, as though they had known each other for years. "Brother D helped me when I was going through a difficult time," Thomas said as he worked. "Meeting him back then felt like finding solid ground in the middle of a storm. I've always seen him as an older brother." Huyen smiled gently. "I feel the same way. When I'm with him, I feel safe." Thomas paused, his hands slowing. He lowered his head slightly, smiling as if relieved of some unseen weight. "Hearing that, it puts me at ease." After a brief silence, Huyen dried her hands and looked at him. "Stay for dinner. It's nothing special, but it's better when we eat together." Thomas looked surprised, hesitation flickering across his face before gratitude took its place. "If you don't mind, I'd really like that." Dinner passed more warmly than Huyen had expected. Maya sat beside Thomas, eating while proudly spinning her top, telling him story after story. He listened patiently, smiling, occasionally helping her with her food. Even Dee felt his guarded tension ease, if only a little. After the meal, Thomas grew quiet. Then carefully he spoke. "If you have time tonight, I'd like to take you to the church. It's very peaceful. I think Maya would enjoy it." Maya's eyes lit up immediately. "I want to go." Huyen glanced at her daughter, then at Dee. After a moment, she nodded. "We can go together. It's been a while since we went out as a family." Thomas smiled and agreed. "I just want to be around you, like family." No one noticed his hand tightening slightly at his side, or the brief flicker in his eyes. Warmth mixed with something far more troubling, like a secret struggling to stay buried. After enduring many hardships, Huyen finally believes she has found peace with her small family and her daughter Maya. That fragile calm begins to shift when Thomas re-enters their lives, bringing kindness, gifts, and an unsettling sense of closeness. At first, his presence feels harmless, even comforting, especially to Maya, who quickly grows fond of him. Yet beneath Thomas's gentle smile lies something unspoken. A secret phone call reveals he is still tied to someone else, following a plan that may place Maya at its center. Moments of warmth, shared meals, laughter, and prayers at the church stand in sharp contrast to the growing tension hidden in silence. As Huyen's motherly intuition quietly awakens, the family continues to trust, unaware that this peace may only be temporary. Is Thomas truly seeking redemption? Or is this calm merely the beginning of a far greater storm?